U.S. Senator Roger Wicker, good morning, sir. How are you?
I certainly remember mercurochrome and methylate, yeah.
God, you get that stuff on, and you're talking about a tattoo. It stayed on you for a while.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
North Mississippi.
Oh, jeez.
From Tupelo.
Listen, like a sigh of relief from people across the state on the C-Spire text line this morning from the Gulf Coast to Corinth. Everybody just taking a deep breath, like, God, did we make it through the broil and oven bake? And it looks like hopefully we're through with that. I don't want to talk too soon, but certainly is nice. As a matter of fact, we even have a slight chance of a shower.
That would be
which is good news.
That would be good.
All right, I want to start off with this. The bill that what's the status of that bill? First of all, just explain it, the Wicker bill, as far as the border wall is concerned, and what the status is.
Yes, we're talking about the border wall.
Yes.
And the fact that I learned on my latest trip to the border in Texas that there are huge sections of the wall that are already manufactured, ready to be erected, and the administration has instead been paying rent to landowners so that they could store these, and cost us some $50 billion a year to pay for people to store these sections of the wall rather than putting up for the purposes they were intended for. And so the Finish It Act, which I introduced, would say either finish the wall with these sections or donate them to states or local governments so that they can put them on the wall. And, actually, this is something that enough members of the Democratic caucus have agreed with, that we have put it in both defense bills. It has passed the Senate committee, it's passed the full Senate and the full House, and basically we're ready to go to conference and send this bill to President Biden. Seeing that this is coming, the Biden administration has decided to start selling these sections of the wall off, sort of like an Army surplus store, a pair of boots that they sell for pennies on the dollar. That's what they've been doing to these sections of the wall, rather than using something that has already been bought and paid for by the taxpayers to prevent this flood of fentanyl and terrorists coming across the border. They would rather pretty much give these sections of the wall away for scrap metal.
Do we know how much of that has been done already? I mean, is it have they sold most of it off?
Well, no, there's plenty of it that hasn't been sold off, but you have to do a little digging.
Yeah. And
there's a site called GovPlanet, which shows how much of this has been sold as sort of military surplus. But I'll tell you also, it's hard to get information out of the executive branch of the federal government, and that's another thing that we're determined to do. That we do not have an all-powerful executive in this country like they do in some of the Asian countries and in Eastern Europe. We have a separation of powers, and the Congress has a right to find this out and to stop it. And so we need to step forward in this month, September, as quickly as we can and get this bill passed and on to the president, and then start holding up some nominees until they get
but the only thing you can do. I mean,
the Congress does make the laws.
Go back to what you just said, the separation of powers. That's the way the Founding Fathers put this out. But right now, I think you had more people, certainly in this audience across the state, that would say we don't have the separation of powers right now. We don't have the House and Senate, certainly the Senate, which is still a little bit in doubt as far as the evenness of there. And you got this idiot in charge of a lot of what goes on. We don't have the power we need to double check this, because I think most people would say, how can this be, number one, legal, and number two, ethically done? I mean, because you have a bill that's working through, And is there nothing you can do or that Congress could do to stop this? Is there a possibility of some judge being brought in and file a lawsuit to put a hold on this?
That is not a very strong possibility. Our best effort, Paul, is going to be to hold up nominations for, like, Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, things like that, nominations that are coming up that the president will need, and say, we intend to exercise our right to pass legislation and also to exercise oversight. It's very frustrating.
I know it's got to be.
A judge will take time, and we need to act quickly. And really, this is an epidemic of fentanyl. We've had young people at our universities killed because of fentanyl made in China, sent to Mexico, and brought across these very borders by the cartels. So this is affecting us today, and it is frustrating. But it's oversight, it's the power of the purse, and it's the power to hold up nominations.
Well, it seems more limited.
A lot quicker than courts.
Yeah. Brandon Judd is the National Border Patrol Council president, and he is also at his wits' end, as many people are. And
that's exactly the wrong thing to do, according to Brandon Judd. He's the national.
Let me play these in order so they'll make a little bit more sense, because I want you to hear this. There are a lot of things happening across this country where in Massachusetts this morning, if you're looking at your morning review, the governor of Massachusetts is asking for the National Guard to be called out. The governor of New York has made an unbelievable request to the President of the United States of America, and this is Kathy Hochul, and here's what she said.
I have sent a letter to President Biden formally requesting immediate executive action in 4 key areas. First, expedited work authorization so we can get these people out of shelters and into the jobs. Financial support for federal housing vouchers, schools, healthcare, legal services, case management, and shelter for us to provide to these asylum seekers. The use of more federal facilities to construct new temporary shelters. And reimbursement for the cost of our National Guard, which have been on the ground at these shelters throughout the state since last year.
And the people of New York are outraged on this one, especially with all the homeless. And one other story to that is Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey has activated 250 members of the National Guard there to provide basic services at emergency shelter hotels amid an influx of migrants that has service providers stretched thin. And in New York, she's basically saying, let's give them a monthly check, let's give them housing, let's give them, and also go get them a job. Senator, this is crazy.
Well, it is crazy, and of course, New York City is one of the very many major cities in this country who decided decades ago to become a sanctuary city.
Yes.
They declared themselves a sanctuary city. I think they're rethinking that now. But what New York City is experiencing does not even compare to what the states of Texas, Arizona, New Mexico have been experiencing.
That's really
for
true.
Years and years. And so I'm sorry for the taxpayers of any state that are having to undergo this, but it is their policies that have encouraged this, and so I have to take my hat off to the governor of Texas and frankly
Florida.
Governor DeSantis in Florida for saying, well, since you want to be a sanctuary, we're going to send you some folks, lessen our load, and let you participate in being the sanctuary that you've always bragged about and been proud of.
Now,
so they're getting a taste of their own medicine.
Here's the follow-up. I'll play this when we come back. The follow-up to Brandon Judd, the National Border Patrol, because he makes a very, very good point. If she gets what she wants in New York, what does that say to the people on the other side of the border? My God, look, they're dishing it out there. Let's go. As a matter of fact, if DeSantis or Governor Abbott won't give us a bus, we'll rent our own bus to get to New York. More with Roger Wicker coming up next. Hey, from Tupelo. Well, it's not for U.S. Senator Roger Wicker because that's where he is. Were you there? You weren't there during Elvis Week, were you?
Well, I've been around the state of Mississippi from every corner and every section all month. So,
have you?
But I did not attend any festivals, no.
Here's that cut I was talking about as far as Brandon Judd.
That's exactly the wrong thing to do, according to Brandon Judd. He's the National Border Patrol Council president. Listen.
She is encouraging more people to come across our borders. If she says that we should be granting work permits to people that violate our laws, she's talking about rewarding them. And any time that we reward people for violating our laws, we can expect them to continue to violate those laws. Our border is never going to be secure if politicians continue to pander to a base rather than what's best for the United States.
Now, Senator, just because you mentioned this a little bit earlier, in the news today is a woman in South Carolina. She's in custody this morning. Her name is Caitlin Lee Abernathy. She's 25 years old. She is from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Canines checked her vehicle when they stopped her. She had 4 handguns and 5 long guns in the car, but she also had 20 grams of methamphetamine. But that's not the story. The story is she had 1,472 grams of fentanyl. A recent article from the Drug Enforcement Administration says that 1 kilogram of fentanyl has the potential of killing 500,000 people. It is pouring across the border, and this president is responsible.
A couple of points there. The Border Patrol representative is absolutely right. And this is something you learn when you visit the border on one of these official trips. Mm-hmm. They will tell you how frustrated they are. They know what needs to be done. And frankly, we could tweak the laws a little bit and make them better. But the Border Patrol will tell you today that if we would just enforce the laws we have, they could do a lot to prevent this. And yes, if on the fentanyl issue, let me just say, if there's anybody here who has a child in college or someone in high school, or if there are any young people listening, never, ever, ever take anything in the way of Xanax or anything like that is not prescribed and purchased at a drugstore. We are losing young people right and left because they buy these things. They think it's a harmless sedative, and for some perverse purpose, these drugs have been laced with fentanyl, and it's killing our young people. So,
it's making China richer.
Do not take a prescription drug that did not come from a pharmacy.
One more cut here, and this is happening across the country. It's happening in San Francisco. It's happening in Chicago for sure. Here's the cut in Chicago. This is not the first time we've heard this, but the African-American population is, I think, more in an earthquake seismic shift now. And it may not be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, but anything that they lose is going to be major to a Democrat Party. Here's what's going on in Chicago.
Migrants moving into the Lakeshore Hotel for 6 months, where 300 can be housed. The city says it's a fluid situation, and it will need to revisit that timeline. There were lots of fireworks.
I don't want them there. Take them someplace else or send them back to Venezuela. I don't care where they go. This is wrong. You got 73% of the people homeless in this city are black people. What have you done for them?
Man, I have never heard people more vocal than what's going on now.
Paul, this is an issue that crosses racial lines, and it absolutely should. And that reminds me that so many of our border agents that I've talked to on the border are Hispanic themselves, and absolutely they want the law to be enforced. Our sanctuary cities and the left-leaning states up north are getting a taste of what they have allowed to happen because of their votes at the national level, and they shouldn't be surprised. Joe Biden campaigned on this. He sent every signal. that once he took office, he was going to open the border.
Well, he said not
and
another
people
foot of
came
border wall.
running.
Not another foot of border wall would be built, and well, he messed up on that one too. I think he built a couple of feet, but I will say
Right
this.
now, he's giving the wall away at pennies on the dollar, and we need to stop him.
Real quick, your assessment of Mitch McConnell.
Well, I take the attending physician's statement at face value. Mitch fell several months ago, had a concussion, and this sort of lightheadedness that happens every now and then is to be expected. I think I hope he's fine, and I wish him well, and look forward to talking to him next week when I get back up there.
U.S. Senator Roger Wicker, thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Safe travels. Back with more coming up next.